So I like to start with a question that I've asked all over the county in so many different contexts. So if you were here last week, you're like, oh, there's that question again. But it's a pretty telling question, I think. We'll see how it goes. So this is for everyone in the room. How many of you absolutely loved K-12 education? You just loved it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. How many really didn't like it that much? How many are not willing to say? All right. So that's about, I counted 8 hands in a room of, I'm guessing, about 35, 40. That's a little better, actually, than the average I get when they ask that question, which in this size might be 5. I don't ever get, ever, we all loved it. Never. And I bet you I never will. And so part of what I want to talk to you about tonight, bond or no bond, our students are not buying the way we deliver education today. We have an education system essentially designed for the industrial era, and we are way beyond the industrial era. And so our schools need to change. I believe that fundamentally. That is, I'm not alone in that at all. That's a big conversation all over Colorado. There are many school districts on this work that we'll talk about tonight. It's happening all over the country. You'll hear a little bit about it. So one of the things that I do, and I love doing this, just so you know, I'll slide into the front of the high school. Superintendents don't dress up that much in the mountains, so I can be almost like, who's that guy? Of course, a lot of students know me now. I'll sit down at a table with a number of students, and then I'll start talking with them. Say, hey, how's it going? And after a while, and they're like, who is this guy? I'll say, oh, I'm the superintendent. And the first thing, as you heard me say last week, is they wonder if they're in trouble. I'm like, no, you're not in trouble. I just want to learn from you. And I always ask a couple of questions. One is, how's school for you? And what could make it better? And it's amazing how often the answers are similar. Usually it's okay, I don't like it that much. Sometimes somebody might have their groove and they love it, but that's not the common answer. Then when I ask why, they say they're bored and they want more choice and they want more voice, and they might not use educational jargon, but essentially they're saying, we want to have a chance to get our hands on the learning. We want a chance to do exciting things. We want to they want more pragmatism, and we're going to hear that from some of our teachers tonight that are with us. And so again, bond, no bond, they're not buying it. They're really not. And so in our classes where students get a chance to get their hands on the learning and apply their skills, reading, writing, math, whatever skills they've been learning, they're infinitely more engaged 9 times out of 10. And I'm in schools a lot. And we'll give you a couple examples of that tonight. So my pledge to this county, really quick before I get to that. So if you don't know, this is my 31st year. I said 30th last year, and I recounted last week. It's my 31st year in education. And so it's not my first rodeo in the work. I started in Los Angeles as a bilingual 6th grade teacher. I worked in New York City. I worked in the Bay Area. I worked in Seattle and Washington for 20 years. I have a doctoral degree in education. It was about learning and teaching. So something that I'm very excited to bring to the county is a lot of depth of knowledge about working with students and working with learning. And I'm here to tell you, as somebody connected to all that, we need to change. And in this county, I believe we have the most potential truly of any place I've ever been, because we have so many people that want to work together, and I get to be in those spaces every single day of the week. And so I think the opportunities are infinite. So, and I think the future of this country, needless to say, is in the hands of our youth. So we're here to share that I believe, can't talk me out of it. You want to, we can try, but that we can be the best rural mountain school district in Colorado. Why would we not think that way? or I can't think another way. I need to think about what's possible, and I think we can do that. And so we have people in the room, officials, partners, business reps, and others, as you've heard, and we want to get your input on what we're thinking about. We're going to show you a bit about Summit School District by the numbers, our proposed ballot measure, our goals, our timeline, next steps, questions, and discussion. And I will ask Doug Blake. There's Doug Blake. Can you read that for us?
Absolutely. Preparing for our future. Summit School District is committed to creating and maintaining future-forward learning environments through innovation, inclusion, collaboration, and efficiency to support the evolving needs of our students, staff, and community.
And can you tell us what's going on down here with these 5 pictures?
Absolutely. Below you'll see our graduate profile. Summit School District has worked real hard the last 5 years developing clear understanding of who we want to see. Thank you.
Pretend like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
You got it. Go. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Works great. As we start looking, we've done a lot of work talking to students, talking to community members, connecting and identifying critical skills that all of our students, I'm talking about my son, 9th grade, Braxton Blake, as well, are going to need to enter the world following their educational experiences here in Summit Schools. And what we've identified are 5 graduate profiles that when students walk across the stage, receive their diploma, not only have they met graduation requirements, not only have they met all the individual classroom expectations, but our students are future ready. And in order to be future ready, our students need to show that they're courageous, they're inquirers, they're globally aware, they have a growth mindset, and they are prepared. Most importantly, prepared. And I don't want to steal the thunder here, but when we talk about being prepared, 4 years, in my son's case, 8 years from now, we have no idea what that's going to look like. But if we put the skills necessary for our students, we get them ready for whatever they may face, they're going to be prepared for things that we're not even ready for.
Yeah, and if you don't know, thank you, Doug. Doug's a co-principal at the high school. And Doug and Brittany is our other co-principal. They're doing an awesome job, so and working super hard. So thank you both very, very much. Some of you may have heard of the organization McKinstry. They do building, usually sustainable building, all over the country. When I was in Washington State in the Seattle area, had a chance to meet with so many CEOs. Dean Allen, who's the CEO of McKinstry, you can look him up. I would sit down with him and say, "What do you need from students today?" And he would say to me, "I hope they're good at reading, writing, and math, for sure, but that's not enough. If you're good at reading, writing, and math and you stink at working with people," those are his words, "I'm not interested. I need you to be incredibly adaptable, ready to change, because our industry is changing every other day. You better be ready to work across the globe, because everything we do is international now. And you better be willing to collaborate." And I heard that from the president of Microsoft, Brad Smith, the president of a section of Microsoft. I heard that all across the area, and you could hear the same thing here. The world's changing so fast. So a couple things about our district that we're proud of. We're not a perfect district for sure. Plenty of people like to tell us we're not perfect, and we're not. We have growth, and we're heading in the right direction, and we'll continue to do that. But we're proud to share that we have a 95.6% graduation rate, 5-year rate at the high school, and Snowy Peaks is at 100%. Jim Smith is over here for many years in a row. We were 100% staffed in classroom positions in 2024, but we will tell you about the challenges associated with that are super real. With 48% of those reported being cost burdened by housing, super significant, and that's part of what we're thinking about. We have more than 400 first-generation students graduate through our program and achieve their college dreams, and I think this is really cool. If you can't read it, 425 students taking at least one concurrent enrollment class, earning 4,785 credits, saving nearly $500,000 in tuition by mostly a fantastic partnership with Colorado Mountain College. Here's a bit more about our district. Some of you may know well. We are, ooh, I got the light. Look out. That was supposed to be funny. All right. Anyway, 3,596 students. And part of the proposal, this isn't everything that's in our bond proposal, but part of it is to upgrade our track and synthetic field at the high school. It's also about safety and security upgrades to make sure we're as safe as possible. It's also about critical infrastructure upgrades like HVAC systems. It's also about career and technical education and an innovation center. 2 high schools being impacted by that, and frankly, every single student that goes through our system that stays here. The proposed bond includes upgrade network infrastructure. I wouldn't call Summit County the greatest place on earth for the internet. Investing in playground upgrades at all schools, and 8 schools will benefit from asphalt, concrete, and sidewalk replacements. There are several big ideas here. One is housing. We'll explain that. Critical maintenance, career and technical ed, you've heard that before, safety, security, and technology. And we'll talk more about this later in the presentation. Our estimate on this bond is $13 per month for $1 million home in tax increase. I'm sure you'll have questions on that one. So I'll turn it over to Kara to talk about what is a bond, and you have your own microphone
They
there.
hooked me up with my own mic. Thank you. So what is a bond? A bond is one of the only ways that school districts can issue debt.
I can't hear it.
Oh,
Can you move over here, maybe?
sure.
Okay. The microphone really doesn't seem to go other than to the camera.
Yeah, it is just for the camera, and I don't have a super loud voice. I'm in finance, I'm not a teacher. I'm talking about why we're asking for a bond. So a bond is one of the only ways that school districts can issue debt, and they are specific to funding for capital improvements. So all of the projects being proposed here are capital improvement projects. And if you're familiar with the Colorado funding model, we are one of the lower ranked states in terms of our per pupil funding. So the amount of funding that we have available for operating expenses is already stretched very thin. So in order to be able to do large projects like capital improvements, new construction, we do have to issue debt in order to do those projects. So that's what a bond is. I like to describe bonds as very similar to your own personal mortgage. The district issues the debt and sells the bonds. We get cash up front in order to be able to fund the projects, and then we pay that back over time, typically 20 or 30 years. So in the question that we put on the ballot, what we're actually asking the community for is to approve us to collect a mill levy sufficient to pay that debt back over time, which is whatever that year's scheduled payment is. So we have spent about the last 2 years doing a full master plan project across the district. And the outcome of that body of work has been to identify projects that the school district needs in 3 areas: career and technical education, workforce housing, and critical maintenance for our buildings. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to some of my other colleagues in the room, and we're going to talk a little bit more about each of these areas.
For a second and go back. Okay, so we've invited in some people to help people understand the impacts of career and technical education. I saw somewhere somebody post, oh, that's just SHOP. Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with SHOP, but it's much bigger than that, and we want to make sure you understand what we're thinking about here. And so I'm going to ask Doug Blake to come up, and then he has a couple of his staff members here that'll speak a little bit.
All right. Exciting times to talk about career and technical education. Many of us have experiences, shop class, vocational education, and for years, hear it from the community, we need more CTE. Why? We need to fill some labor shortages. We need more opportunities to get our students into the workforce. Could be a unintended or intentional outcome from adding more of these programs. But what we're seeing is we talk about the shift in education. We have a massive shift in education that's moving to what people are calling the big blur. The big blur in education is a fascinating intersection where core content and secondary education, secondary schools are pulling together with post-secondary institutions like Colorado Mountain Colleges, universities, and a third group, private industry sectors. And what we're finding is that the need to move our students further ahead and further towards career-connected, relevant learning experiences is where education needs to be. We're pulling in industry experts to help guide and identify where different pathways are moving. We're finding ways to increase opportunities for kids not to finish high school and then go to college, but bring college and concurrent enrollment classes right into the high school in areas that will help them move further ahead once they've received their diploma and move to the post-secondary landscape. We have an incredible responsibility as educators to start embracing this change and find new ways to bring exceptional learning spaces, relevant, career-connected learning to the desks, not the desks, sorry, to the hands of our students. It is fascinating to see this in action. Our students are starting to explore who they are, where their interests lie, and most importantly, imagining a future that they see themselves being a part of. Realizing that when they walk into a high school, when they open those doors and walk into this building, they're there for a purpose. That changes the game. That changes the game for you as parents. It changes the game for our students. And it moves forward economic strengths, forward progressive thinking with our community here and around the state. The state sees the critical need to elevate this type of learning for all of our students. We see these buildings, we see these opportunities, these career and technical education innovation campuses all over the country because they're working. They're changing the lives of students. They're making school relevant once again. And so when we talk about that, when we talk about CTE, for years it's compartmentalized. And we say, here is traditional learning. Here's your core content. Here's where we do this. And then we silo off and say, over here, this is where our career technical education lies. All learning needs to be career-connected learning. All of our teaching, all of our content is career and technical education. We're preparing our kids for success beyond high school. And we're going to do it through exceptional learning spaces with state-of-the-art, relevant equipment, lab spaces to help our students start seeing what they can be and start finding their pathway to success right now and not later.
Can you talk about the pathways
Yep.
and then ask Oakley?
Yep, absolutely. That was kind of what I was going to move into. So we've done a lot of work in understanding our local economy, our state economy, the nation, where the jobs are going to be in the future. And most importantly, we've looked at the global landscape of future jobs and identified future-ready pathways for our students. And we've identified healthcare, business, marketing, entrepreneurship, computer science, advanced manufacturing and engineering, skilled trades, natural resources and outdoor leadership, and human services education as umbrellas to support so many different exploratory opportunities for our students.
Doug, can you mention, sorry to interrupt, because I failed to mention this last time. I'll give it right back to you. There's a direct connection with the work at CMC, and so I think it's important just to share that before Tom and Oakley get a chance to talk.
You mentioned, yep. You mentioned, when we look, not just Colorado Mountain College, one of our strongest partners for years, finding ways to support bringing post-secondary learning into our building. We offer over 40 classes, college-level classes, credit-bearing classes for our students. Most of them are guaranteed transfer throughout the state. Working through identifying the pathways that exist in the community college with our local neighborhoods, but beyond that, how the community college and supportive learning can be the ticket to guaranteed transfer to universities all over the state. Students who complete a sequenced amount of prerequisite courses, many of which they can get right at Summit High School, they complete those courses, meet those requirements, they have guaranteed transfer to, say, engineering. They meet the requirements, engineering classes offered at Summit High School, at Colorado Mountain College. They now have a ticket into School of Mines, CU Boulder, and all these different articulated agreements throughout the state. Once again, we waited till our 4-year experience in universities to start pursuing these pathways. We can bring this closer to the learning, closer to the student, so that they are leaving our schools ready to go to that next level ahead of their peers. Okay, so big picture, future of learning, exciting. Exceptional learning spaces where people from all around the mountain communities are gonna look over, drive by 70 and say, dang, look what Summit's doing. That's the big picture. But what are the students saying? What is the impact on learning every day? And we got 2 teachers here that are gonna tell you what CTE means from the ground level.
I'm going to take this one. It looks more like a gear shift, be a little more comfortable. Want to come up at the same time, Tom? Same time. All right. All right, my name's Oakley Van Oss. I teach welding and construction tech at the high school.
My name is Tom Lucky. I teach ski and snowboard manufacturing and bike mechanics over at the high school.
So something that we're having big issues with at all levels in our district is attendance. It's something that for our high school, it plagues us. We can't reach kids that aren't there. And for Tom and I feel like one of the things that CTE does for our kids is it's a reason to come to school every day. It's something that they love. They're really engaged. They're really passionate about it. Like Tony was saying, if kids have things in their hands, they're excited, they're manipulating different things, and they're learning while they're doing. And kids are showing up for our classes, and then sometimes they leave after our classes. So as far as hooking our kids and making sure that they're coming to school, they need that thing that they're passionate about.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. We are having this issue with attendance, and yet I have an 8th period, end of the day class where kids are building custom skis and snowboards, and they're asking, can I stay late? Can I come in early? Can I come in my off periods? We're creating spaces that kids are begging to be in because their education is coming to life. They have a dream, they have a vision, and they get to see it happening. So we're using reading, writing, mathematics, we're doing all of those things, but we're not sitting there looking at the textbook. I don't even have desks, you don't even have desks, and kids are begging to be in the room. One thing we did last year, and this to me is just proof, the kids came up with this logo for our skis and snowboards that we produced last year. It's a really cool logo. They made it. I loved it. So I had them printed on some hats, and I handed them out to my kids and said, hey, you guys have done a great job. You've been making these skis. We've been selling some of these skis. I got you all a hat. Not a huge deal, didn't seem like, except for when you walk around the school and you see them wearing their hats. And I want you to think about this in another context. Imagine a kid walking around with a hat that said, Algebra 2. Now, no knock on the math teachers. It's awesome. We're using it. But it's not going to happen. Okay? So we've got these programs that are buy-ins, and it gets kids through the door, and so they can do all of their core content, but they have this as well, and they're going to stick around throughout the day because of this. And it's been amazing to see.
Community involvement is a big part of what we do in CTE. 2 years ago, my programs started with the Builders Association here in Summit County, and we started a partnership with them, and it has been absolutely amazing. From a financial standpoint, we have backing now. From a knowledge and experience level, it's been incredible. I've got 4 contractors every day that you guys might have heard about the tiny home that we built last year, and every single day that we're working out there on the tiny home, we've got 3 to 4 adults that are there donating time and teaching the kids, how to frame, how to plumb, how to run electrical, how to drywall. And it doesn't happen in the other subjects the same way. And it's organic. It's something that the community wants. It's something that I hear all the time, like, that's so cool that you're doing that. Keep it up. And how can I get involved? And I feel like that community involvement is something that's going to take us to the next level and really make it to where it is, the lines are blurred between school and being in the community. We've got kids out there working, doing internships, and it's just an incredible thing to be a part of.
And just one more quick thing. And if you guys were to come over and you were to see our spaces and you would see the kids interacting, I truly believe you would think, man, this is incredible. But then we start talking about numbers. And I look at my custom ski and snowboard manufacturing class, and we were able to offer that last year to 15 students. We saw the numbers of how many students are coming through Summit School District. To affect 15 at a time is not enough. We want all of our kids to be able to have the opportunities to be in the classes that light a fire inside them. They all deserve that. And we've seen the start of this, but now we're talking about where can it go? What's possible? How amazing can we make this? And I think this bond would make that difference.
Absolutely. We're one more quick thing. So we're building tiny homes, and last year we built a tiny home. It's very successful, great thing to do, and we're building them outside, which is kind of cool because it's Summit County, and if you go into construction, you're going to be outside. But if we had a space where the kids came in and they could pick up where they left off the day before, where we had all the tools already rolled out, ready to go, where we could have 20 booths of kids welding all at the same time, I mean, things could really, the doors would be blown off. And so that's what we're hoping for with all this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to this one for a second. Can you guys stick around for a few? Yeah? Okay, Doug.
No, I just want to wrap up. I mean, the amount of work these 2 gentlemen have put into their programs is it's just unreal, and it's come through some sweat, some hard labor. We've written grants. Our community, Summit Foundation, and so many local businesses and patrons have supported, but it's taken so much piecemealing it together. And this bond opens up the opportunity to take a health science lab that works and update it with state-of-the-art equipment so kids aren't learning equipment that's outdated from 5 years ago. We're building lab spaces that replicate the technologies in the future.
That's perfect. Let's give Doug and Brittany a big hand for this one. I'm going to add just a tiny bit to help people see something here. So obviously you're hearing a bit about the skilled trades, some manufacturing, some building, but this is not, I encourage you, and I put this in the Summit Daily not long ago, some links to go look at campuses we've been looking at as models so you can get a better picture of what could be. So there's an example in Durango that we looked at. There's an example in Littleton, example in St. Vrain, the Innovation Campus in St. Vrain. Littleton's called the Epic Campus. Durango's called Impact. Canyon City doesn't necessarily have a building yet. They want one, but they are doing a lot of work very, very similar to this. Canyon City is not that different than Summit it is in terms of demographics, but not in terms of size. And I just want to outline for you as well, they have 150 business partners that students are doing internship work in. So when you think about what we could do in Summit County on this front, I encourage us to think big here and think about the kind of partners we could have for healthcare and business, marketing, entrepreneurship, computer science, et cetera, human services, education. And in each one of those situations, I don't know if in every one, but what we're going to do here is launch advisory groups in all of those areas so that our community partners can help advise and support the work that we would do in these areas. Help us see what's needed, help us see the skills and understand them. I think it's going to be quite powerful. Now, I know we're taking a little bit of time, and people will say to me, "Oh, you're so energized." I'm like, "Yeah, of course. We want to do the right thing. What we believe in our expertise as educators is the right thing to energize the students of this county." So that's what we're putting out there. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim Smith, who runs Snowy Peaks. And Snowy Peaks, sometimes people will say, "Oh, that's the alternative school." Snowy Peaks is an amazing place. So is the high school. And those of you, anybody here have a connection with Snowy Peaks? Yeah. Oh, Johanna Kugler from our board's here. Please give Johanna a hand. Sorry, I didn't see there. They do remarkable work. What I want to say is the school has saved lives. Jim will talk about that. And what I want to say, though, at the same time, the facility's not the greatest, and the kids have very limited access to career and technical education, and they deserve that as much as any student. So let's give a hand to Jim. We're going to take questions at the end.
Hi, everybody. I am Jim Smith. I'm the proud principal of Snowy Peaks High School. I am also a father to two daughters, ages 6 and 8, who attend Dillon Valley Elementary. And whenever I hear what's going on at Summit High School with the CTE opportunities, this is what I want for my own children. And not speaking as an employee, but speaking as a parent, this is what I look forward to seeing my daughters embrace, gain those skills, and just that fire that's lit that I see whenever they do certain things at home and making me bracelets and all these things and getting their hands dirty. Man, we can have that for every kid. And so I am principal at Snowy Peaks. And before I get into what we do, I just want to kind of say, so I had somebody tell me very recently, Thompson Valley up in Loveland is another school that built a CTE program and built a CTE building, and they attached their non-traditional or alternative high school straight to it because they invested in their students who they knew maybe weren't that enthusiastic about sitting in Algebra 2 class or sitting in their English class, but they knew that those students came to life whenever they walked into that building and had that opportunity to pursue those careers of their interest. And that's what we're really hoping for here. So at Snowy Peaks, we serve 85 students, and we are the small option for people who need something different. Every single student comes to Snowy Peaks with a story. Every single one of them comes to us with a story. For some reason, something in traditional education isn't working. We have fantastic traditional schools, but we all grew up with somebody who we know traditional education just didn't fit what they needed. They needed something different to be engaged. They needed something different to keep going. We hear countless students at our graduation ceremony talk about their dropout plan, that they were disengaged, they were going to give up, that was their path. And we can get them to that diploma. But I really want to challenge us to think about, is that high school diploma really, is that the end-all be-all? Is that the big victory? Or is it helping our students see the post-secondary plan, to see the post-secondary pathway to a high-wage career of their passion? We don't want our kids to go out and just get a job. We want our kids to live the life that they love. So we are 85 students strong. We also house what's called the EPIC program. The EPIC program last year served over 40 students. This is a fluid and transitional program for identified at-risk students. Students who have maybe a loss of a parent, Maybe they themselves are very, very sick, or other reasons that would bring them into a program where they have the highest tier of support that we offer in that area of our school. And so about 125 total students served last year. What we do at Snowy Peaks is we redefine the educational experience. We know something isn't working, so we come in and we create a student-centered model where every student gets exactly what they need to be re-engaged in our school. We have a relentless focus on both our students' personal and academic growth to prepare all students for post-secondary success. And right now in our current model, we have a lot of career exploration and exposure to career options. But we don't have that deep learning that's going on in Oakley's classroom. We don't have that deep learning that's going on in Tom's shop. And that's what we're hoping our community will support, is that allowing all students access to those important CTE opportunities. Can you change the slide?
Oh, sorry. I got you. Oh, no, you have.
And so, we've had a lot of success over the years at Snowy Peaks, and we're really proud of this. We have had a 100% graduation rate for 6 consecutive years, and actually, for the first time ever, we have a 4-year graduation rate of 100%. We have 0% dropout rate for 6 consecutive years. We have seen the research about all the things that happen when students drop out of high school, and I promise you none of them are good. And we are a little bit resource heavy. I will admit that we cost a little bit more money to serve those students, but the good I believe that we are doing is so important. Those students are graduating from high school with a post-secondary plan and ready to go. We are a performance accredited school by the state of Colorado. We do have a 94% daily attendance rate. And we do house that EPIC program, as I mentioned. They are also 6 consecutive years of 100% graduation rate and a 0% dropout rate. So our successes have led us into a situation where, in middle school, a lot of parents start to see their child start to shift and change and need a little extra support, or students go through things in their high school career that causes them to be a little bit more disengaged. And they call us and they want into Snowy Peaks. And some of the hardest parts of my job are that we are capped at 80 students and we can't take everybody who needs our program. And we would love to see a new building. We would love to see that opportunity expand. We would love to be able to run a fluid schedule where we're rotating high school students into the CTE opportunity so that we can help more families and more students who need the Snowy Peaks model. Right now, there is a wait list, 35, 40 students consistently every single year of families who I would love to see at Snowy Peaks, but we're just not able to accommodate right now. Can you change slides, please? And so this is a picture of our graduating class of 2023. And up on this, we see students who have gone on to CMC. We see students who have gone to UNC, to CSU, to CU, to Chapman University. We have a student who traveled internationally and is in school in Japan. We have students who are going on and pursuing that 4-year opportunity, and they're doing great. We also have students up here who are those students who the traditional school model in Algebra 2 and English, world literature, it's not their thing. But they come to life whenever we give them those opportunities to engage deeply in their learning and apply those skills in a hands-on way. Last year, we were really proud of the fact that we had a group of our junior high students take both first and second place in the state of Colorado at the KidWind Challenge, where they built wind-powered energy windmills in a competition to generate energy. And so our students went down, and that's the learning that they love to do. And that's the kind of opportunities we hope to continue to provide, because there are a lot of students up here, they're not 4-year university bound, and we're sending them out at square one. They've got to start that journey into joining the skilled trades or into going into computer sciences or whatever it may be. And we really want to allow them that earlier access, that pathway to get to those professions, to gain those skills, to be highly successful in their passions earlier. And so, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm going to switch topics for a moment. I know we're going a little long. We're going to give you a few more minutes and a chance to talk. I just want to give you a visual before I talk about this, so it might be a little confusing. So if you're driving toward Breckenridge and you know the high school's on the right, the future dream, and Snowy Peaks is attached over here, is to move Snowy Peaks over to the high school into a new space, its own building, and then expand the CTE space there at the high school as well, in an innovation center, as well as rounding out what these guys need and others, so that we have, if you can think of it, as almost like a little college campus of sorts, and then connected directly to much more easily with Colorado Mountain College, both by proximity and by some partnership. And so just want you to kind of see what we're talking about here a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about here is housing. So when I was asked by the Board of Education to consider some things, or they told me when I came on, I should say that way, that we've got to deal with housing. We have a housing challenge in the county, which was new for me. It's expensive in Seattle, but it was different. And so I started calling around to school districts in the state, superintendents, and called the Roaring Fork superintendent, who has been building housing for staff for a number of years. And trust me, no superintendent thought they were going into the housing building business. It's not something we thought we'd be doing. That was Rob Strain. And then I spoke with Phil Qualman in Eagle, superintendent right over the hill here, Vail Pass. They've been doing housing for staff for a long time. Telluride just passed a bond, half of which is going to housing. And so, and the story goes on. And it is just unfortunate but true that we have a real challenge on the housing front. And so I just want to give you a couple of points here. So in 23, our teacher turnover rate was 14%, but I'm going to add a little bit to that, and our support staff turnover rate was 38%. So anybody who runs a business knows if you're constantly turning people over, you've got to retrain people. And so since I've been here, we've hired 125 teachers, 123 teachers. I'm starting my third year. And so that's a lot out of 285, right? And I can break down exactly to the 14% if you want to stay after and talk about that. And in support staff, now I'm talking now about bus drivers and cooks and go on down the line, we have a really hard time housing people. Principals in this room could tell you endless stories of staff that decline job offers because they can't afford to come, and pools for jobs that are super thin. So we did a housing survey last year. You can go ahead and advance that so I speed up a little bit. You're going to go to this one. Yeah, sure. And we're going to go to this in just a second. Our housing survey last year of about, how many completed that survey?
Almost 200.
200? And then we did a whole bunch of community forums, and it came out super strong, like we need some help. And anyone who's been involved in supporting people that don't have housing know it's a real deal. And there's many organizations in this county that are helping, and many have said, can you help? And so when it comes to housing, we're stepping up. And on this bond is the proposal to build 60 rental units in Silverthorne on 10 acres of land that we have near Angry James as a first step. We're also in partnership conversations with local entities here to see as a second step if we can do some more in partnership. And I can tell you you probably know them, from very big stories around the challenge of housing in this county. And so I think, am I doing this one too? Okay. So that housing, you'll have questions. I'm sure questions are mounting for you, and we'll get into that. Secondly, safe and high-quality learning environments. We know we need to invest in critical repairs and HVACs. As I said, improve our internet and tech infrastructure. And this came out really strongly. I don't think we highlighted this enough. Some of you that are following the mental health crisis in the country, I mean, it's my 31st year. I've never seen so much anxiety and depression in schools. It's terrible. It's terrible in Washington. It's terrible everywhere I know. Luckily, got a little bit better last year, but it's still bad. And so many of our staff working here, and you as parents may know, or community members, we are constantly working through and trying to help students feel better about themselves and make it through school. So part of this is also about providing more mental health support services and space inside our facility. Okay, now for 10 years, the district's talked about Breckenridge Elementary. And so we have a wide number, we have 9 schools in the district. Not a wide number, we have 9 schools in the district. And we have something called a Facilities Condition Index that comes from the state that tells us if you're in the green, you're in a pretty good place. If you're in the yellow, nah. If you're in the red, you need to start making some decisions. And so we spent a lot of time looking at Breckenridge and a lot of energy looking at Breckenridge, and it came down to, and we polled the community, and that was in the spring, and that poll came back 60+% in favor of either rebuilding or fixing Breck, short version. The fixing of Breck structurally was in the area of 18, I think, to $20 million. The rebuilding is over 40 million. We'll talk about that. We looked at the lifetime of it, and after talking with various people, we made a decision, but we'll come to that in a second. We also looked at the combining of Breck with Upper Blue. And if you know where Upper Blue is, up in Breck. And so we thought, maybe that'll work. There's not widespread support for that. And as we did 2 big community sessions around that did not poll very well. And there's a lot of concern about traffic in that area. And so the board came to an agreement in June that we're going to build a new Breckenridge. That's on the bond, a future-ready school, and we'll be looking at other schools down the road as they come up on the Facilities Condition Index. So I'm going to turn it over to Kara. I think you got to go over here for
Yes.
to talk a little bit about
I need the pointer.
mill levies.
Okay, so that's a recap of the projects that we hope to fund with the with this bond. I want to talk about what that impact will be to you in your mill levies that you pay as a taxpayer. So the chart here shows the assessed valuation in the bars and the number of mills that have been levied over the last several years. So you'll see from 2023 to 2024, our mills that we levied as a school district actually went down. And that was despite the growth in assessed valuation. We are paying off some existing debt. So we have a bond issuance that was issued, I think, originally in 2024 that we will make the last payment on in this December. So that gives us the opportunity to ask the question for this additional mill levy and have some offset there with what would have otherwise been savings to the taxpayers. So the green bars are showing our projected assessed valuation for next year. The 25 budget is what our mill levies will be without this bond passing, and the projected is what the mill levies will be if the bond passes. So you'll see that if the bond passes, the number of mills that we levy will be pretty similar to where we were in 2023. And as we mentioned in the earlier slide, the estimate for that net tax impact is about $13 per month for $1 million home, so about $156 a year for a taxpayer that owns $1 million home. We've got a few slides with some frequently asked questions because as we've been going out and talking to the community about these potential projects, we have a few questions that keep coming up in every conversation. And the biggest one, the one that I get asked most often, is didn't the district receive more money when property taxes increased? We all know last year we saw our property values rise significantly. You all probably felt that in your property taxes that you paid last year. And so it's logical to assume that the school district would have more money as a result of that. But that's not the way our Colorado school finance formula works. So our Colorado school finance formula is driven by state law. Colorado Law Amendment 23. You might have heard that referred to. That amendment runs a calculation for what each school district's funding will be. We call that our total program funding. A portion of that is raised locally, and whatever the difference is between what we levy locally and what that calculation is backfilled by the state. So I have some charts here of 2023 and 2024 funding. You can see the dark blue is property taxes. So in 2023, about 72% of our total revenues came from property taxes, and about 23% was from the state. In 2024, with that growth in our assessed value, we did collect more locally. But that then just lessened the amount that the state backfilled because our total program funding is still determined by the school finance formula. So you can see that shift there and how that works. So because of these limitations, and because our operating funds are already so tight as a school district, that's why we really feel like it's necessary for us to ask for these bonds in order to do these capital projects. And so that was my next slide, actually. So look at that, I got ahead of myself. So why can't these projects be funded through our existing budget? It really is because our operating budget is already so tight. We spend 88% of our total budget on salary and benefits for our staff. So that is staff in schools. That's the people in our schools that support our students and support our families directly with kids. One of the other questions we get asked a lot is regarding housing. And we know that housing is a community-wide conversation, and there's lots of other housing projects going on across the county, both in other towns and the county itself. And so why does the school district feel that we need to do housing too? And there's a couple reasons. We are seeing that we are losing staff because we can't provide housing. And we're seeing other school districts being more successful in recruiting and retaining employees because they are providing housing to staff. We also know, and you may have seen this in the countywide housing needs assessment, that the projected rate of housing that is being built is not going to keep up to demand. So countywide, we have a housing problem, and even with all the construction that is going on, it's not going to keep up to demand. So we feel like as a school district, we need to be part of the solution to that, and we need to be able to offer housing so that we can recruit and retain the best teachers for our kids. Okay, Tony, I think this is you. You want to talk about our next steps?
Sure. And then we're going to move in. So I'm going to just take a moment here. We haven't exactly modeled hands-on learning for the last 45 minutes, right? So if you've been sitting and listening to a lot of slides for 45 minutes, and I'm guessing some of you are like, ooh, I need to get engaged in the conversation. And so we're going to get into that here in 2 minutes. Now imagine you sit through that, which I managed to get through somehow. I did not do well in middle school. I did very well in high school because I learned how to comply and play the game of school. And so get your credits, get your SAT scores, get to college, but man, I just figured out how to comply. I did not love it. And imagine, if you asked me to sit, anyone who works with me knows this, to sit in classrooms like this for 6-7 hours a day, 170 plus days a year, why we need to change learning. So if some of you are getting a little like, woof, all right, I just wanted to share that. So, Board of Education conducted a survey of voters in May that indicates support for the possible measure. We're doing some outreach now. The board will call. They have until Friday the 6th to make a decision on whether to refer the ballot question. You should know, though, that they, on August 22nd, if you want to come, please do, or public comment, you can Zoom in. That's when they're going to decide, August 22nd, what they want to do with the question. So then, after that, if they decide to put it on the ballot, we will step back in our role and just continue to present the facts around what we're thinking on this situation, and we'll present both pro and con, and we'll do that. And then there'll be, like every bond there ever has been, a campaign committee that will lead the work of citizens to make a decision. So we're going to put you into small groups. We have some paper coming around. I want you to know that as you're in those conversations in small groups, we're also going to come back after that conversation and have a larger group conversation to address questions that came up, et cetera.